and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there, beloved Ascension Pioneers, and welcome again to this Ascension update together with me, Polona Rea Dawn. So in this Ascension update, I will cover the energy for the month of May, but not just as that way, because as you know, I like to talk about things that are also ever present, not just things that we're going through as basic energy shifts, but also the things that are coming through our awareness that are, you know, the truths, the divine principles of creation that are becoming more and more embodied. I haven't been writing down everything on my wall, on my whiteboard, but there will be some things that will be spontaneously coming through as I'm going to be guided to talk about the things that are occurring presently. As you can see, I have to record indoors. Once again, we had a huge energy shift here in our Alps. There was this stream of polar air coming into Europe, so we had snow again. And basically, it's the end of April, and we're almost going to have belting this weekend, I think. And I couldn't believe that we can actually have so much snow, which was kind of enchanting, but it felt almost like this rewrite, like a complete blank slate. So even today for my video, I was guided to wear very plain clothes, very much, you know, white, very plain. And the message I've been giving is that it's really time. It's time to the call back to the simplicity of who we truly are. As Ascension Pioneers, we're coming from different star systems, and I will go further deeper into this as I'm going to talk about the main Lightworker challenges here, because this is something that I'm receiving quite strongly. These are like almost our major challenges in life in terms of how we're coping with the external world, because a lot of us are coming from the realms that are very much different to the reality that this Earth School of Mastery is providing for us currently at present time. So how are we dealing with this? You know, how are we actually moving through these challenges? And ever greater and greater self-mastery will also be the topic of this. And it feels like for a lot of you, for a lot of us, this is starting to really dissolve. We're trying to kind of like be who we are finally once and for all. And for those of you who've had issues with kind of like feeling very close to certain people, there's always just a certain level of openness, because once you've opened up too much, people freaked out or they were overwhelmed by your light. And that happened to me all of my life. You know, people want the good, the fun, that aspect which is harmonious. But when you show them the other mirror, which is also the challenges that we're all needing to work through in order to master ourselves, you know, the Kali energy, the energy of transformation, which at first it begins with disillusionment. And with a lot of that energy, because the Ascension Pioneers carry that template, a lot of the people first want to go in self-denial, they want to run away, they want to escape. So when we're working with people and those kind of terms, I'm constantly being reminded that we ourselves don't run away if other people are showing us that mirror, but that we're always here for those who want to know more, to expand further, to get greater clarity and insight from us. And that doesn't mean we're going to have to participate in the ways they want us to, because a lot of the people, they just want to hang out with us and just want to have fun and just want to, you know, kind of like have us be around us, but in their way and how they want to. But this is where we're getting stronger now, to show crystal clear boundaries in ways that, look, we're here, we're available. We're not just here for the certain group of people we really feel like we belong with and the people we meet online, because there's greater capacity to meet our soul families and light tribes there, but also to be available to people who wish to be around our light, but not to the degree that they say, you know, only this way and not that way. And this is where we're growing stronger in our light. This is strongly coming through, and this is why this white light again of unification is coming through very strongly, because the unity lies in respecting all parts of the divine equation, the awakened and not so much yet awakened. And again, like I've said, this doesn't mean that we have to participate with the things we don't fully feel in alignment with and in resonance with, because a lot of us are so sensitive to certain things and how we're engaging with the physical world are draining us, they're tiring us, they're depleting our energy resources. And recently I've had a communication fallout with someone because they thought they were my source of depletion, but it was not about them. It was about the way we're spending time together, because it was just not fitting my energetic body anymore, you know. And sometimes we participate in those things because we say, okay, other people like it, so I guess I should do that the same way. And a lot of us have that chameleon capacity to shift our energy to almost be those pure mirrors to what other people desire. And that's why they enjoy our company so much, because we're like those chameleons that are so adaptable and flexible to any kind of situation that life presents. But this doesn't mean that our authentic light has to be hidden for such a long time, because what a lot of us did during our entire lifetimes, in order for us to not feel so rejected, we rather played the belonging game. But that belonging first needed to be established within ourselves. And that is why we went through a lot of transformation and personal mastery through our own inner schools. So our school of life was our mystery school in this lifetime. This is what actually taught us so many things. Relationships were our teachers, they were our earthly anchors, they were our grounding forces for us to be more humane, not just be more human, because to be more human is to be more and more humane, more compassionate, more understanding, but beginning with yourself first. Because a lot of light workers, quote unquote, misunderstood that for being almost like sacrificial to others, you know, so that your desires no longer matter because you're so given, you're going to give in to the energy of another. And once they will show you the crystal clear mirror that you something you don't like, and you deplete yourself and your energy resources in order to please another, you will just show yourself, they will show you also a mirror of what is not really your job as an ascension pioneer. Our job is to be the crystal templates for the new crystalline diamond energy, basically. And we're not doing that when we're still wanting to preserve with the old, just simply for the art of keeping up with the Joneses, to really feel like we belong, that it's safe, you know, to keep our safety nest. And that's not working anymore. It's because the energy is so strong that it's going to show us, look, you know, you have to be yourself first and no longer hiding. So today I got this message from someone, a beautiful member of the Soul Light family tribe, and they've been writing a comment on my Facebook profile photo, and they said, you know what, you're so beautiful inside and out, you don't need makeup. And then later they asked me via personal messages exchange, they said, are you offended by what I said? Because I really felt that you don't need that. And I said, of course, you know, it is partially like that. But in a way, sometimes there's this desire to kind of, you know, have this persona so that we kind of not show all of our light because not everyone is fully ready for it. And then she said to me, you know what? When we engage with others in that kind of way, that we don't shine all of our light, there's worry present there. So actually, we're not being the fullness of ourselves in order to kind of like stay hidden a bit. And what happens is that we take the responsibility for how another might act or react to our energy and how we are, and know it, not always wanting to be fully seen. And she said, you know, it's up to them, it's their responsibility to how they will see and react to us, but our own responsibility is only how we will carry our own light. So this really made me reflect on this whole topic, which continues to come, not just for this month that I'm going to create this update for, but in general, for a lot of us, we feel like almost like this innate desire to belong just by being ourselves. Because our belonging before was very much attributed to situations such as, oh, I feel belonging when I'm going to kind of engage with someone, you know, they'll embrace the level of intimacy they feel safe within, or the kind of sacred space that suits them. But let's say there's an activity that the other person likes and you don't like so much, or maybe you like it through the ego, but your body has changed so much because you're integrating greater and greater levels of your soul that your body says no to something, even when your mind says, yes, I want that. And then a situation unfolds and you're finding yourselves being depleted of your energy resources. And that recently happened to me as well. And this is how we're learning. We're learning our authenticity and transparency, because a lot of us, and I'm going to share this with you as I'm going to go deeper into the subject, but a lot of us have the energy that's really outer worldly. It's not of this world, and it scares people. And sometimes the more that they see, they will call us weird or whatever it is. Even if we kind of fit into their scenario for as ever much as we're kind of wanting to play along with a certain situation, we want to fit in. But the moment we will show a little bit too much more of us, we'll feel rejected because they won't get it anymore. And this is what we've been kind of like playing out. But the thing was, it was always this constant struggle between us and them. Again, dualistic polarity. But what we're doing now is we're seeing even those parts that we call them, the unawakened, we're seeing them as just aspects of us. And it's almost like if you imagine a master coming from another planet, joining with this earth's consciousness, and also those who are not so in divine remembrance of who they really are and where they originated from initially as beings of light, and then seeing that we're just picking those aspects up in a way. So a lot of you who are going through certain relationships and they're not fitting your ideal, and they're not going along the lines of what you may be expecting to happen or to have the true divine matching mirror partner yet, it's because you're still doing the work of you having that soul agreement, your divine assignment of how much we wanted to assist in the process of the unification of divine masculine, feminine forces of creation. The feminine force has really arisen, so that's why I was getting so many messages about the Empress. But the female, and a lot of females did that work beautifully, and a lot of males with a lot of female energy as well. But that feminine essence kind of culminated, it climaxed in its source. But now what's happened is, and we also have Mars retrograding this month. It happened in April already, but there's going to be a long presence of this endurance until the end of June. It's because it's almost like that male drive is trying to catch up. So it's kind of unification happening. And as I'm going to start talking about here, you're going to see that a lot of this has to deal with the energy of really reinventing ourselves, catching up with ourselves, and all these aspects. So if there's like this constant conflict between, almost like, even if it's just in communication, masculine and feminine principles of how they share their truth and how it communicates, because the feminine principle is all about sharing the feelings, and the masculine wants to understand everything sometimes. And a lot of this deals with the distorted feminine and the distorted masculine. So when aspect of that downfall is plugged into the distorted divine feminine, the distorted divine masculine will kind of be intrigued into that, and it will participate. So our journey here is to not cut off those relationships that might feel a little strenuous and more challenging, because as I share in my Cosmic Beloved course, we have two main forces, the challenging force and the harmonizing force, and they're equally important for our ascension and self-mastery, because they're both equally important, just as us merging the aspects of shadow and light within us to have an integrated polarity of who we truly are in unity consciousness, if you get what I'm saying, right? So all of this brings us back to seeing others as the reflections of our own versions of, whether they're distorted aspects of that beautiful energy of our true source, or the non-filtered, non-biased, purely benevolent force of our unified self. So we will be seeing that in these communications and interactions. And as these 5 planets that are now retrograde, we have, I think, Mercury, Pluto, Saturn, we have Mars, and did I forget something? Jupiter, but Jupiter will go direct again. But these 5 planets, and 5 is a number of change, and it's almost like the constant, staying on the hook of transformation. So there's like this constant waiting that something will change and transform. And if we're not doing the work on it, just like through reflection, dreaming of greater possibilities, that thing happens naturally through flow of the divine. Either way, we're going to be pass that on through that force change, or something that will just drastically change in a reality, because it was already built on false foundations. It wasn't truly authentic. So we're still being shown these aspects, and that's why sometimes more challenging aspects through relationships came to meet us in that reflection, to see how much we're still playing the game of us versus them, and not wanting to be who we truly are. Because I've witnessed this myself within someone who clearly told me, look, this is how I am, and this is what you get with me, and they've said it with such confidence that I almost just nodded and said, okay, I accept that, I'm playing along. But there was no aspect at that point, in its truest essence, when this communication unfolded, where that aspect of me would say, well, but this is what you get with me. It's the same thing. So it's almost like sometimes we still do that. We nod along because we think, oh, we know more. That doesn't mean we're better. By knowing more, by remembering more of the true nature of who we are, beyond what we consider as an ego personality, still doesn't give us the validation to be more submissive and just do like this, do a little nod, do a little dance. We should all supposed to be doing party dance instead, which means like embracing ourselves who we truly are, and whether another will reject that or not is not up to us, because we truly feel rejected when we're not putting all of ourselves out there. And that doesn't mean we need to share everything about Ascension and all the things. No, that's another thing. We don't do that by people who don't obviously want that, if they're not choosing it yet. I'm talking about the ability to be fully ourselves. You don't want to do something because it no longer fits your energetic template, you don't do it. You say it. Why don't you say it? What's behind it? Why are we not sharing it? That's really coming up very strongly. So let's move into the energy of May, which also talks about a lot of illumination coming through. And especially on this topic of us seeing things as they are. And May, actually, because of this retrograde notion with these 5 planets, will create this energy of how we can review all of that, what we've been doing for so long. Because when we do that, we're just joining the dance of separation of us and them. In truth, it's all one. It's just different aspects of awareness that are ascribed to it, but it's basically still all one. It's different life choices, but we cannot judge them. What we have to do in a way is this inner synthesis, what we're embracing all those aspects, but we're still in the end going to choose what resonates best for us. So we don't have to fear just integrating all of them as within unity. We're still in the end choosing what fits us. That doesn't mean, okay, just take whatever comes your way. No, it just means integrate all, as all choices are equally important. It's not one is higher than the other. It's just different. And the moment we do that and we play out that whole rainbow spectrum of the experience scenario, then we're going to choose what really fits us without denying. Because sometimes we deny aspects of those choices simply because we don't want to see them. Again, either choosing to be too much in the light or too much in the shadow, or denying one or the other instead of embracing both. So May will be a 14, which subtracts to number 5 month, and 14 is even in tarot is known to us as the temperance, which is the art of constant balancing. And I talk about the art of balanced co-creation, of knowing what we're actually doing. Sometimes our interactions are just, you think you want to hang out with someone, so for you to hang out and have some companionship, you got to do this and this and that to fit in. Why? We have to make those wise choices, and we say, look, it might be how you like to spend time, or what you like to do, or what you're choosing in your path, but this is what I like to choose. And if there can be synergy, and if the two can reach some kind of a compromise, a third option even maybe, that suits both, that would be really brilliant. That doesn't mean we have to cut people out of our lives, people who maybe are not fully synthesized, because the work that we're doing is with those who are not yet fully awake. That's what we're here for. Those are the aspects that we're still kind of lifting up in frequency and as our brotherhood and sisterhood. It's not like saying, ugh, you're not on this timeline, you don't belong in our world, bye bye. It sounds very exclusive and elite like, which we're not really all about. We're about brotherhood, the white brotherhood of light. So this temperance energy is all about mastering this, knowing when to scale too much to the left or too much to the right, but trying to find that perfect synthesis. And the 5 that this subtracts to tells us how to do it through constant change in motion, because the things that are going to come up for you in your life to deal with, 5 sometimes can represent conflict on many different opinions and viewpoints, is seeing all but still choosing your own. Not saying even before you get another option or another alternate opportunity, just look at all but still then make your choice. And before you're saying, no, I don't want this, before you don't have all information. So these tries that are then also coming through are going to be the supportive energy to this. So that's not going to be all just conflicting, because in the universe there's always this balance, like I said, of challenging, more conflicting energies, and those of harmony and balance, because we need both to evolve as a race of beings. So we will have a Taurus new moon. I think it will be May 6th. And this will kind of bring a sense of grounded ease into who we are, because the Taurus is the Venusian energy of sensuality, and sensuality is how we relate to the world of the physical senses, but we're doing it through the higher senses that we've already evolving, and we were establishing them. So it's the fusion of the higher senses that are now blending through the lower 5 senses. And the Mercury at the end of the month, which is of course this week, it goes retrograde as well, and it's again in the degrees of Taurus. So it will be one of those earthly balanced integrations that in a way we will be presented with in our own way, because it will personally get us in the way how it needs to get us. So, okay, now the vortex energy that I talk about here, about this shift, is the shift that started all of this. So, for us here, it's been really strong around April 25th, 26th, 27th. There was this huge shifting energy that came, and here it materialized as the polar air coming, and it shifted from being very warm, almost too warm for this season here, at the end of April, and it switched like, and we had almost like sun, snow, rain in one day. That was the which I usually call the portal weather. But what was interesting is that this energy of rebirth really wants to come through strongly, and whenever we have periods of strong cycles that come in. We have tinier cycles and then bigger ones. And this was actually obviously one of the bigger ones because there was the sense of things really needing to readjust. And, sometimes people look at my videos or the pictures I share from nature and my escapades that I take on my elven journeys, but a lot of the distortions that can occur is people see only the light, only the good, only the integrated aspect, something that's already been through those challenges and it's already integrated. And they might see us, oh, this person's already always in bliss, always living like this. I have to go through my own integration periods as well. And during this week, when this portal weather came and this vortex energy opened up in a big way, I had almost like 3 bed days. I call them my bed days. And for me, when these downloads occur in a very strong manner, I get strong buzzing in my ears and heat waves in my body, and a lot of things that even if I say I'm going to work out, it's almost like my body does not allow me. It's because our body's intelligence is already so strong and so firm in its knowing that it guides us the right way. And a lot of times we want to oppress it and we kind of want to do it our own way, but we just end up creating more distortions for ourselves. So this rebirth is always for our planetary mastery. What are we doing? I'm going to explain this here. So, as you know, the planet is going through these shifts and they're occurring in stages and in waves. It's not all happening in one wave, such as, one example would be when the human evolution was at a certain threshold, and at that time it wasn't capable of holding that capacity to evolve to the next level. There were too many distortions. The planetary catastrophe, took over, and we had, let's say, the Great Flood. And some people said that as they counted, there was around four of these major events, and wiping the slate clean. What we're getting now is these wiping of the slates clean. They're occurring in stages, and they're like miniature quote unquote disasters, but they're not really disasters. They're evolutionary cycles that we can't always see as such because we always relate to something that's evolutionary. It's something that's major and it's drastic and it's from here to now, from tomorrow to next day. What's happening is that these are just as equally important, but we don't always see what's happening, so we don't acknowledge it for what it is. And that's been happening because we haven't had the farsightedness to oversee these changes. And the overlords and the overseers, and a lot of you might also be, as creation pillars, a part of these groups, but you in human form are the one who's doing the stabilization work in the physical sense. But these beings are overseeing this whole process. So, as well as the humans still like to worry and fear the changes, there's always beings who are in charge of this in a way, who are overseeing the bigger task. So it's like we're fulfilling the task in a physical sense, and we're just as needed as any other part of the whole grand equation. And yet, we kind of need to stay with what is here and now. So today I got this question from someone, if it's not really important to know your lineages, your star lineages, your other lives, other worlds, other dimensions. And the answer to this question is yes and no, because if you know these things while not yet being mature enough to be grounded in those ways of expressing these essences as an essence, not as wanting to escape to those realities, then it doesn't really serve you. While on the other hand, if there's readiness, if it comes through your own soul without seeking external confirmation and approval, then it's really going to be shown to you in your own divine timing. So we need to know that, because everything, for example, that came to me, for me, through me, was through the nature of my own I am presence. And I was shown in the moment without even asking. I was always curious, but I wasn't asking like, oh, I want to be shown this and that. I simply knew, I always knew that I have to be of service, which means to share what I'm given through spirit, not the kind of service that makes me feel like I'm sacrificing myself and my own life, although we were going through these patterns as well as a collective of beings of the light. So When I say beings of the light, what this means is that your devotion is to the light. It doesn't mean it comes to the exclusion of the shadow, because a lot of us are polarity masters. This means that we've integrated the polarities in unity consciousness, and we're showing others how to do that without swaying too much to one or the other side. So the force, in truth, is how it's presented to us in Star Wars, is unified. It's unified in the way that it just is. It's purely made and created out of divine love. Okay, so when certain beings, let's move back to the star game. And if you want to know more about these things and the nature of ascension in terms of broader to filtered earth perspective, I share a lot about this, basically the whole story, in an archetypal and balanced way for us to understand and apply, is in my ascension, multidimensional ascension video course. So that's available. And what happened was that during those stages, right, after that last wipe off, a lot of the beings of light, which I call the masters who were present at that time, took off. And we went to our star systems back, and we've kind of been mastering ourselves from there. And we had a strong origin and connection always to the earth, because we were always involved in the planetary evolution of this beautiful system here. But there were some others who stayed, and they played out through these incarnational cycles. And what occurred from my journey, when it was time for me to know which level of the equation I participated within, it was known in divine timing. So I could understood it in the way that I applied it on my service. And so that it made sense why I do the things that I do in such a way. So I was one of the beings who left, and basically acquiring my mastery on other planes. And I returned specifically for this cycle when a lot of the souls were ready to culminate and to remember their divine origin. And this was shown to me in dreams. It was given to me in a very crystal clear way without me even asking or wanting to know. It was just fact. It just came like, this is how it is, period. So I didn't have, like other souls had, a lot of memories of past lifetimes and so, but I've had a strong resonance with Atlantis and what was actually what we were partaking in back then. So with this planetary master right now, with this rebirth, is those cosmic masters returned, because a lot of people, a lot of souls who were being of the light to the planetary service from the downside view were ready to kind of remember, because all the work, all the incarnations they were going through kind of needed to complete, and this is what's happening now. And that's why we are doing the work that we're doing to remind those souls so they can start embracing all of their soul parts, synthesize them, and once again also become the cosmic master that they also are. So, one more thing to say here is, when a transformation cycle is very huge, what usually happens is we can assist ourselves, and we're being assisted through the dragon energy. So there's a beautiful story I have to share here, because this last weekend I went on this point. There's this elevated point that oversees the mountain valley. And I remembered, wait a minute, this was where last year I got the my own Elven Dragon song, and I sang it the first time. Or was it 2 years ago? I don't remember. But it was back at that similar cycle, and it was just about to be spring. Yeah, and I remembered, this is the dragon point, and ever since I remember that, all of a sudden this whole week I kept getting messages about dragons. Someone would say it, someone would play me a video, they would just appear, it was everywhere. And the heat came through again. Whenever the dragon energy is present in my reality, I feel that immense heat, that heat of almost like our soul alchemy burning off the cells that are still within those old programs, and that doesn't they don't fit anymore to our new body templates, because we're being prepared for the new body incarnated templates. So what took place is I was reminded that it's springtime. Even the spring, it begins with the initiation of Aries, which is the fire element. The dragon energy is more acceptable to us. It's more at our disposal. And when we work with it, when we just allow, the dragon energy to flow through us, it doesn't have to be anything specific. By just being open to it, being aware that it's there, and opening yourself up to that, it will assist this major transformation. But also in the greater planetary level, it's kind of helping with this burning off of this old energy. So it might come up for you as well. Let me know. So these light worker challenges that I talked about, right? They go deep, because they go very deep, because the incarnation cycles for many of these souls that were always placed here and always at a specific time, specific location, for a specific purpose. A lot of these, they're still being felt. And up until the point we're not fully synthesizing them, that we're just who we are in our crystal clarity, we will play out those parts in continuation until we see them and say, wow, why am I playing this out over and over and over again? Which story am I holding on to? Is because maybe these were stories of being rejected, or not wanting to share all of your knowledge because you're afraid someone might say, ugh, you're a kookster, you're fake, you're this and that, or being in the spotlight. A lot of souls who carry this immense light, they need to be in the spotlight. They're chosen to be in the spotlight because to be in the spotlight, your light shines more brighter there. There's a lot of celebrities, for example, not all of them, but there's a few of them who also are placing themselves on these spotlights so they can have a greater charismatic influence and send out their own star-seeded codes. And some of them are very highly intelligent beings. And we know some of them, and we recognize them by their works of art, by their works of genius. But what we do is, because of these old stories within ourselves and these imprints of being less than, of being not fully seen by ourselves, we kind of idolize them, and they're great and they're amazing, and especially post-mortem we kind of put them on a pedestal instead of seeing what they're showing to us. It's like the spotlight is not a bad thing when you know how to work with this energy and how to use it in terms of being of service with your light. And that means stop hiding. And the hiding energy can be something very simple too. Like I said, always nodding your head, not wanting to be seen. A lot of people who are very light and bright, for instance, they would always wear dark clothes, so they wouldn't kind of, fall out. Me, I have no challenges, for example, in wearing hipster like rainbow clothes, even when I go here out in the village. And I know people will think, oh, because there's ordinary people here, and they might think it's weird and they would stop and stare at you, or but that's what attracts them to even look at you. So there's a connection happening. Most of our energy transfer occurs through our eyes, our hands, right, or through our heart when we hug someone. But not everyone can be hugged or even wants to be hugged. For some people it's still too much, especially by a stranger. So we're using our eyes for that stellar energy transmission, and we're using our hands, the direct link with our heart center, our cosmic heart center. So everything that we're still working towards, not wanting to be fully seen, not wanting to be in the spotlight, doing the work behind the scenes. Most of our work is behind the scenes, yes, but it's because we live it that way, because we have the freedom to do things our own way. But that doesn't mean we're going to completely exclude maybe standing out brightly, being out in the spotlight. Maybe it just means being with a group, being a guide of a certain group. Doesn't have to be now a huge number of people like some people do, these massive events. It can be something very simple, and yet you'll be in the spotlight as an organizer or whatever you'll be. I'm saying this to all of you who feel somehow called, and yet there's a part of you that says, but what if not? Just go through what is the main fear. Where does it originate from? Go back to doing the soul retrieval work. There's a lot of people doing these healings. You basically go in that timeline which feels that story began, and just watch yourself as a conscious observer. Tell yourself you're not just that it's just a part of the reality of who you really are, because when we say soul is much bigger than we really think. You think, okay, soul is now in this body, so it's related to me as I am now. Soul is so many things in avatars and different suits, and all of it is written there. So when we say the soul, for us to be wholly soulful, we need to kind of do that retrieval work, and we need to bring those aspects back into unity. So the less that we will feel that rejection on the outside is because we won't reject ourselves. We will no longer feel different and not belonging and all these things. It's because a lot of us have been telling ourselves the biggest illusion there is people are saying in the new age, the star people are coming, they will come, they will come. Well, there are star people here already. It's people who have returned and came into these bodysuits, but they're no different than people who stayed in this current incarnation cycle. It's just that the people who have been going through these denser experiences, they're not yet seeing the wholeness of it all, because they've kind of acquired this denser perspective. So those who've left are coming and returning to have that pure frequency without those distortions that you can only acquire in this physical plane of existence, so they can show them back home. So they can also remember and kind of like take back those, take off those clothes and suits that no longer are who you are. They're just stories. And we're kind of like dealing with them and kind of putting them away one by one, because it's easier for people to do it like that, because sometimes we still cling on to these false avatars, not to the true essences, those aspects of us who we are, like that person who asked me, different lineages like angelic, elven, fairy, mermaid, all these aspects that people relate to. These are just different frequencies from different alternate realities, but they're always within us. So beings who are more aware, more awake, have the greater capacity to connect to those timelines and to those worlds. And for example, when you say to someone, I'm a fairy or I'm an elven, and they look at you like, yeah, right, in the movie, it's all imagination. It's just that you have a greater capacity to memorize that. Maybe they were too. We have all been existing in those worlds, but because of what they've been enmeshing themselves into for cycles and cycles and eons, they have no capacity to see that. And just because you do does not make you want to hide when someone doesn't believe you and they say, you're talking a bunch of crap. It's really helpful that you continue to say those things, even when you're confronted with kind of people looking at you like you're from another planet. And someone tells you, are you from another planet or something? You can say with proud, well, with pride, like, yeah, in a way I am, because it's not just this lifetime. It's not just this reality. There's so much more. And by us embracing more of that, and again, I remind you, the multidimensional ascension course rocks. It's very good. The more that we can have the capacity to share from those essences. Sometimes people think, how do you have so many gifts? And there is no other way but to open up these gateways. And how can you do that if your imagination tells you imagination doesn't even exist? Well, our imagination is the greatest connection to source. It's all these books, amazing sci-fi, science books, basically books about alternate realities. They were written from that space, and when the imagination met the source, primal activity from that creator who wrote it, or who put it out into practice, into form. Okay, so this is about that, which is really coming strongly. Now I want to get to how this is reflected on our Earth's perspective. Recently, I encountered someone who is doing 3D, 5D tarot readings, which is cool because they're actually covering both worlds, both dynamics that are occurring simultaneously. And it's true, it's like an onion of the overlapping worlds and realities. It's just where we choose to fuse our consciousness with. What are we giving most of our devotion to? And this is where we are energetically. So I really, really was fascinated by that because I didn't see any duality in it. I just saw the different perspectives. And the more we can see the true realistic nature of that, we will see where people are in their focus. And this is how sometimes if we're hiding, we can't show them the alternate, right? How can you? If you're just saying, let's just go with the status quo, I'll do it as well. And in the end, you won't be happy about it at all. You will tell yourself, I'm just enjoying myself in a new way. But then in the end, you'll discover that because your frequency is different, the things you maybe enjoyed with for years and years before, it almost feels like your past life. You're no longer enjoying it, and you can try them out. So you will see. We need to try sometimes. We need to go back to the old self to do that review. It's almost like planets retrograding, so we can catch up with what was actually changed and modified, and we can say yes on all levels. I just say, maybe I changed, I partially like it, but what if there's something more there in the past? Well, go see it. Go take that review, and then see where you are now with all of your heart. Not just half, like confused. Confusion serves a purpose. It means that energy is still not stabilized. It's still shifting. And that's why we have confusion. It's beautiful. Whenever I'm confused, I say, okay, I welcome the aspect of me that's a non-knowing, that I don't know about. And I don't try to analyze too much at that point, because the more that I do, it's just getting further away from what's real, which is, it exists for a reason. Even the confusion does. So relationship emphasis and the intimacy. This is still very much in focus. I was watching a few of the tarot channels, reader channels for I think this month and past month as well. And I couldn't believe, because I do tarot myself and I've been learning more about it just recently, I couldn't believe that the cards, the archetypes, they're always repeating themselves. Different readers, different parts of the world, and including myself. Basically, I'm not a reader. It's not my primal focus, but I like to learn in that way as well, to merge with my own knowing and to see how that applies in the cards, because I'm a curious being when I'm here in the physical. And I can't believe the art of accuracy that's always being repeated. These patterns are just what they are. It's like you cannot lie about these things. You cannot make them up. They're just there and they're real. So what's being shown to me more and more is that this relationship emphasis is still something that's more important to us now than the work we've maybe previously done by getting our work done or getting the web page or getting all of that, just creating a template where you will kind of be of service, or from that template of where you will kind of seed your own unique way of being in your own unique light and how you serve through it. But the relationships are becoming more important for us, and we're getting so much more integration through them than ever before, because it's like we're not being tested through them. But what I'm being shown is that in the past, because our devotion was elsewhere, we weren't able to see that so much, so we're doing other things. But now, why everything is moving so much towards relationship and our conscious relationship work, and I talk about this more in depth and greater clarity in my Cosmic Beloved course, because I teach you all of these things, how to become your ultimate beloved through these simple ways of being present with how we're actually moving through that on a greater level. And what I've been shown is that this sometimes, for us, because we are servants in a way, we've come here not just for ourselves and our personal experience, we've come here to do the work. And that is why often our desires, like I've said in the beginning, won't match that which will be given to us. It's because our soul agreements might be different from what our mind wants to experience, and we're getting what we need to get, we're getting what needs to be done. And for a lot of us doing the service work, relationship coming out will be more like different worlds, different realities, for us to polarize, for us to blend in, to fuse, to create that fusion. While the other half of the whole, which is always one, is maybe experiencing, different things. And you're thinking, half of the planet is getting paired up and they're having these beautiful soulmate connections and, just going to different places on the planet, just enjoying. Why is this not happening to me? I must not be attracting the right way. And this is where we're fooling ourselves, because we're comparing, we're moving into the energy of comparison without seeing our own divine purpose clearly. And I'm not saying this is so for everyone, but if you're guided to that, I really strongly advise you to take the Cosmic Beloved course, because it's especially for those who are doing this work of divine love integration to become love in crystal human form through that opposition, through that merging the opposition in polarity. And because the unified essence of the masculine and feminine on greater levels are merging together. And when we're participating in those most let's say emphasized positions, we're not getting it. Why is this so? And yet we're doing it, and yet we're finding ourselves in the middle of that. It's for a greater reason. It's not just because you somehow attracted it or because you have a core wound. For a lot of us on this Cosmic Beloved path, it's because we've signed up to take upon every single distortion that was playing out in the dualistic perception of how the feminine and masculine forces of creation come together, but in distortion. And we wanted to rewrite all of it. And that's why here I said rewriting the history, and we're seeding the new earth through that. So this is a very important act of service. It comes through love. And as much as our mind sometimes will tell us, oh, I don't want this, this is too hard, this is not for me, this doesn't serve me, or I better let it go. What we're truly letting go is our perception of what we're doing, and trusting our soul that most of our creations are happening through our higher self. The more blended in you are, the more your light body merges with your human form, the more you will consciously know that you're doing this. You'll just be very conscious in the way that things are presented to you. You might have still feelings and emotions coming up, but you won't have that coming unconsciously. You will be very conscious because you'll have it in your field. You will see it, and because you'll see it, you will have the ability to quickly transform it. This is how we do the work. Well, maybe with another who you are in relationship or a communication with, they won't have it so conscious. And by you being the one who's the aware one, who shares, who puts it out in the open, they might have a greater ability to step up as well in their personal empowerment. And if not, don't hold yourself responsible for it, because you are here to show the way, not to force the way, or to be the teacher or the one who's above or something like that. A lot of the times what I'm seeing is people who are doing counseling work, they still kind of sometimes, even if they're friends with others who are like them, they still kind of start counseling each other. And we're not here to do that. Those of us who are all, in a way, Ascension pioneers, we're not here to counsel each other. What I do here in my videos, I share, I put it out in the open. But to be humble about it is very important, because when someone shares something with you and without you asking if they want coaching, or they want something from you, and immediately you start counseling them and asking the questions, why do you think this is so, and starting to put these questions, you're immediately coming into the role of their teacher. And recently one of my good friends said to me, I'm just trying to open your mind, and the first impression that I said was, not your job. Not at all. I didn't ask, it just came out of the blue and it felt forced. And when we feel it, the energy will feel forced, because we're here, all of us, having our unique perspectives. We're coming from different gateways and stellar experiences. There's an emphasis on the fusion, not just confusion, but fusion often comes from confusion first. That's how it is here on Earth, polarities playing out, evening out, and synthesizing. But I'm trying to say here that the greatest aspect we can offer to one another is conscious sharing. Sharing means no analyzing, no overemphasizing, no overanalyzing, and saying, I'm here to open your mind. I'm here to expand you. This is never an outside job. Remember that. It's always our own job. So when someone tells you that and you love them, please still tell them that maybe this is not the highest aspect, how we truly are supposed to be within great white brotherhood, because we are the unity collective. We're here as different experiences, but we're blending them in, and we cannot do that by automatically starting the coaching autopilot mode with each other, because we're starting again this above, client and student and teacher and all of this. I don't want to be anyone's teacher, or student or anything like that. I just want to be a conscious participant with all life in creation, a divine lover of all life, by sharing my unique essence, putting out there what Spirit shares with me about this process that we're undergoing, and the rest I don't want to be responsible for. And the moment you teach something and it's coming more forcefully outside of you, is you become irresponsible, because you're not doing it through an act of love, which is always the art of receiving through that sacred invitation. And I've shared so much about this already, tons of hours of blah on that. So yeah, what we're doing for seeding that new earth, what we're doing is we're using the polarized energy for greater good. And that means that this polarized energy will be the integration within us, the work we've already done. And how do we know? It's because it will feel fluent. It will feel like, yeah, I've arrived. And that arrival is temporary. You're always expanding further and further more. But it will feel like something that you don't have to compromise with, that you don't have to seek for. It just will feel like yeah, like that safe spot within you. Not safety, which comes from fear, but that anchored space, like I say, preferably through that anchored feeling. And recently, when I was on top of that dragon spot, I received guidance. The words kept coming, the weather goddess, the weather goddess. And I was like, what is this? What's this about? And the weather was just about to shift, and I felt it. And my soul showed me that I have the capacity, because of how much integration work I already did, to hold the light, to be a pillar for the weather frequencies. And I didn't get it, because, we cannot at mass change weather. This is not the energy of light. It's how it's created. And for those of us playing out here on Earth. But I was shown that those of us who've mastered enough integration work within ourselves, that we're polarized in that unity, we can be very strong pillars for when drastic events, energetic events are here and they're shifting. So just being peaceful with our energy already influence. We don't have to pray for the weather to get better. We don't have to, oh my God, I pray for this, for this country to have it safely. But what you do is you become that country. You become that weather. You become that manifestation of what needs to occur. So let's say there would be this weather shift which took place here. And when it began, it might have seemed very drastic. And yet, when I look outside today, it's already starting to melt, and it's all just beautifully naturally unfolding, because I was at peace with what was happening. And people are trying to always bring up this fear, like, oh my God, what's happening? The trees will die, too much water on it, not the right time, this and that. And the moment we do that, we forget our power that comes through peace, which is love, acceptance. And that's where the power is immense. And so I've been getting a lot of reports from the other parts of the country, which were most, most damaged. And here, just a little snow and all looks fine. It's just not natural for this season, and yet it is natural, because nature is as it is. It's unpredictable, and we don't always see everything from the highest perspective. But those of us, like I've said, who've neutralized or integrated polarity enough, we have the capacity to affect our environments so much. And that's why I was hearing that weather goddess, weather goddess. And it's not now like sorry, tongue tied. It's not that now I can take this magical wand and say, huh, sunshine, huh, rain. It wasn't about that, although it'd be nice. But it was more about having the conscious influence by being a creator pillar of the true divine source energy, the prime light. Okay, my beautiful gods and goddesses in the making and creating, and my beautiful Ascension pioneers. As always, I send you so much love. There's beautiful courses and assistance available on my page, as well as beloved sessions with me. If you're interested, I do that as well now. I've shared about this before, and I had a couple of feedback shared already with one of my first few clients. I can't call them like that, basically. It's just my divine companions. But after I restarted with those sessions. So I'm really grateful for that. And as always, so much love, wisdom, and power. Take care, and I'll talk to you very soon again. Bye bye. Welcome into